I'm recording.
Recording in progress.
Okay. We'll start with introductions.
I am Amy Sproul, and I'm an intern at UVA CAPS. Who are you, Kim?
I'm Kimberly Champion, and I'm an intern at UVA CAPS.
Neither one of you are approaching this with sincerity.
I am. It's just, you know.
Clearly you didn't read the document. It says, introduce yourself with the year of CAPS internship and your docs program.
No, I don't have the document.
Just read that too.
All right. Okay, we're starting over. All right. All right. Nicole, you prompt us again.
Okay. We're going to introduce ourselves. My name is Nicole. I'm an intern at CAPS for the 2021-2022 academic year. And I came from the University of Cincinnati Clinical Psychology PhD program.
Hi, I'm Amy Sproul. I am an intern at CAPS, same year as Nicole and Kim, and I'm coming from the George Washington University PsyD program.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Champion, same year as Nicole and Amy, interning at CAPS here at UVA. And I'm coming from Point Park University's PsyD program.
You can see that we're all in person too. So we don't have to wear masks. We have the same bookshelf behind us, but Zoom would be easier.
So I guess we can start from the beginning and talk about what it was like to get up and running and settled into the program. That whole process. It was a little different for us because we were in a unique phase where CAPS hadn't gone quite back yet into in-person, and they were in the process of moving into the beautiful new building that they're in now. So it was a little weird getting started virtually. And then the transition with moving into the new building and onboarding, I think just was pretty difficult for our cohort. So in terms of just IT delays and whatnot with, staff turnover from the previous year. So it was not the smoothest onboarding experience.
Yeah, that too is I think it's harder to, I don't know, it's harder to learn a new system when you're not in person and you can't pop into somebody's office or like fix problems immediately and having to wait for people to get back to you. So that's a problem that the next cohort won't have. I think for me, and maybe for you guys too, I don't know, one of the most difficult parts was learning a new medical charting system. And at first it seemed like learning a new language and that it was going to be impossible and that I wouldn't succeed. But we were told that was normal to feel that way and you will succeed. And now I'm fluent in Medicat. So if you're on Titanium and you're transitioning to Medicat at first, that can be a steep learning curve, but I promise you'll get it.
Yeah, I definitely echo those Amy and Nicole's sentiments, and that we were definitely in a unique position onboarding this year. Started out basically working remotely and moving into a new space that is a beautiful space. Very much appreciated being able to be in person. And I would also definitely say, anticipate if you're coming from working with Titanium or a different system, that you're going to have, a little bit of hiccups transitioning to Medicat. And the beautiful thing about it is that the staff here completely understand and are more than willing to assist you, and that eventually you will get it, and you can take my word for that.
Um, in terms of just getting settled in, was there any aspect that was different than either of you anticipated, for better or for worse?
What do you think, Kim?
In terms of getting settled in. An aspect that was different. I think again, coming from working from home and working remotely during COVID, it was kind of jarring to actually see people coming into the office and engage with people, and the dynamic is still a bit different than what it used to be pre-COVID. We still wear masks throughout the day, and we kind of still keep to ourselves a lot. So it's a little different than what it was before, but I think that's maybe life for everyone.
Yeah, I would say maybe the most surprising about my onboarding, and I'd be interested, Kim and Nicole, whether it felt differently for you, was how quickly we were thrown into emergency day shift stuff, and it ended up being fine. And but I remember kind of being like, wait, what? Like, I'm responsible for what? By myself. And I think that it wasn't in that I thought I was over my head in some ways, but I worried I might be. And I also, I mean, none of us had a lot of institutional knowledge at that point about where to refer people or how to answer questions from deans or like the hospital necessarily about like what our protocols were. And yeah, I'll just say again, it was fine. Like it really was fine. And I think maybe my colleagues present did a better job of advocating when they were unsure of what to do. And if you ask, the support is there, I found. But sometimes I felt like, oh, maybe I should just not ask and just work independently. And I think that caused me undue stress. So like, just because somebody trusts you to do something on your own doesn't mean that if you don't need additional support, you can absolutely ask, and people are really happy to provide that. I don't know if you guys felt differently.
I mean, I think the program is accurate as it is described and as it was presented to us. There weren't any surprises or unexpected elements that weren't introduced to us in orientation, but it's so much information that you're getting that for when it all starts to like settle in, like, okay, I'm going to have 3 supervisors and a group supervisor and a soup of soup supervisor, like that, all that information is given to you, but it's hard to really know what that's going to be like. So I still think, even though there's no element of our training that wasn't presented as part of the training program, still just sort of internalizing that and understanding what that looks like on a day-to-day basis was a bit of an adjustment. I will say, I think I expected a little bit more formal training in the documentation and use of Metacat. Again, to echo the theme is like, it will all be fine. And when you ask for help, it's always there. And I never encountered a staff member getting frustrated with me or not being willing to help me out or show me how to write a therapy note and, you know, how to put a therapy note into the Metacat system. So there were definitely many moments where I felt a little bit lost in that system, but it will be fine. It just kind of takes a minute to get used to.
I'm still learning things about Cat.
Yeah. And when Nicole said she felt a little bit lost, Nicole is the one that I go to for, you know, assistance when it comes to IT stuff. And she's great. So like, yeah, if Nicole says she felt a little lost, there's some lostness going on. But I do, again, want to reiterate that not that it's going to feel fine in the moment, but that in actuality, it will be fine. It is fine and it's transitioning. And once you get to where you are fluent in the Medicat system, you pretty much feel like a rock star because you accomplished something. So
and in the moment, it feels so like this Medicat thing, and it's just it's sort of like it's an overtone of I think the first few weeks, but now that feels so like far away, and I feel much more comfortable with it. But I think at first, adjusting to Medicat can sort of like take center stage in some of your anxieties. But I feel like after getting settled in, that I've been able to like focus on what like my individual goals were for the year, which does not include being proficient in Medicat. I mean, long-term career goal has nothing to do with Medicat. But also part of that process is sitting down with the training director and meeting with different staff members to talk about what your goals are and get to know the staff members to see if there are particular staff members that you want to work with as a supervisor, of them supervising you, if they have experience with a particular clinical concern or a particular theoretical orientation that matches your goal, then I think you have a lot of opportunities to get to know them and get to feel out who can best support you in achieving your goals. And we all met individually with the training director to discuss our individual goals and to think about like what supervisors would be most appropriate. And then we ranked our supervisors and talked to the training director about that. So I feel like although we do a lot of the same stuff on a day-to-day basis in terms of individual therapy and emergency shifts and group therapy, we each have our own goals. And so our internship experience is tailored to what we're hoping to get out of it. I feel like I personally have been pleasantly surprised by how much I'm able to sort of work with my supervisors and addressing like the individual things that I want to work on as a clinician.
I think the site, hopefully this isn't too tangential, but I was thinking about this when you were talking, Nicole, about what makes this site special and different from other CAPS. And I don't know if it's unique, but I do think it's different than a lot of CAPS in that there are elements, I think, of sort of a community mental health feel, and that they're busy and it's not a tiny school, and you will see higher acuity and people are juggling, a lot of different roles. And I know at other CAPS, sometimes they just have it pretty simple for the interns. Like there's a drop-in system, nobody makes appointments, like they might not have crisis duties, they might not run groups, or if they do, maybe just one. They might not, do the same type of triage and brief screening that we do. And even though a lot of CAPS offer those services, I definitely feel like here is a combination of sort of everything. A lot of outreach, sometimes some difficult outreach, some really interesting outreach that I think would give students or interns an idea about whether even community mental health is something that they're interested in. So I think in that way it's a strength, and that is challenging, but it's interesting, and you can get experience that would be really helpful in a lot of different settings, not just college counseling settings. And they do let you keep a couple long-term patients. I'll segue into another point that I think is important about UVA CAPS is the short-term model that they have. That means so many different things between sites. Short-term model here depends sort of on your supervisor and like how you decide to manage your caseload. So like some supervisor, everybody's like, oh, 6 to 8 sessions. And during training, they're like, yeah, keep them, you want want to refer them into long-term treatment. You want to do just a piece of work and hand them on. And then once you start meeting with people, they're like, short-term for this client is like 18 sessions a whole year. And you're like, oh boy, because the fundamental principle is you can keep patients for however long as you want, but you have to be doing 5 intakes a month. And so you have to sort of be moving people along on a conveyor belt. And I've just decided to do that by keeping longer term patients who would have a hard time being referred out into the community, either because it's contraindicated in their treatment, or they're on Medicaid, or they're an international student and their insurance is like not good for the community. And then, so keeping more people for more sessions, and a lot of people who really just are having, some temporary difficulties for a lot shorter, maybe 2 or 3 sessions, and getting them connected with somebody else. So that's how I've figured out how to balance my client load. I don't know if you guys would find that interesting to talk about, but actually I would be interested because I'm not sure I know how you guys are managing the short-term model here.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to talk about. I feel like you get such a range. Like I have some clients who are pretty severely depressed, and those are my more long-term clients. Like I'm going into those therapeutic relationships knowing that I'm not going to terminate with this person after 8 sessions. And then I have some students who, it's like they need some psycho ed on like sleep hygiene, or like it's just sort of like this self-regulation thing, and those can basically be addressed in like 4 sessions, if that. So I feel like the natural range of severity that we see will sort of balance out, where you have some people who just sort of cycle through more quickly than others. And there's sort of this ebb and flow to the presenting concerns, particularly, this is a very unique year. So I think some of the things that we saw at the beginning of the year were issues with like just adjusting to going back to in person or coming back on grounds. And that's sort of, I don't see as much of that as I did at the beginning of the year. But of course, then around midterms, you have people presenting with academic concerns. And then at the end of the semester, you have these folks who have been struggling all semester and are just now reaching out for help after they're realizing. So sometimes I feel like, I would say towards the end of the semester, I start to get a bit more of the like academic concerns, or like the vocational, like, what am I doing with my life? Is this the path that I really want? And so, it ranges. Sometimes it is more developmentally identity formation and exploration, or figuring out what sort of career path is most aligned with their values and their goals. To I'm a freshman and I don't know how to, or I'm a first year. Actually, that's the language here: first year, second year, third year, fourth year. I'm a first year and I don't know how to like feed myself other than like frozen chicken nuggets. And there are lots of resources in the community and in UVA that like you can refer those students to help them get support. But with such a range, you have stuff like that, and then you also have like a full-blown eating disorder, or a traumatic event. So I feel like that has been helpful for me. I came from previous like experiences in university counseling centers where I felt a lot of pressure to move people, and basically, sort of terminate with my entire caseload at the end of each semester. And I don't feel that type of pressure here, which is nice. That's been my personal experience, is that as long as it's clinically indicated to continue seeing someone, then you're supported in that.
I would have to agree with Nicole that we definitely have wide and vast range of acuity and presenting concerns. And that kind of is what makes work really exciting for me. It is challenging for me, working within a brief therapy model coming from a humanistic program that really, we had, exposure to, brief or short-term therapy, but not on the level that was presented to us initially. And I agree with Amy too, that depending on your supervisor, like my supervisor at one point was just like, I want you to just put that out of your mind and just work with your clients. And that was probably some of the best advice that she gave me, albeit I have a pretty nice client count. But what I do realize too is there's various ways to move with people. That, for me, like those clients that I've been seeing for longer that I kind of just want to keep tabs on, it's like, well, let's check in 2 weeks, let's check in 3 weeks. And then as Nicole said, they're going to get that client that's just like, oh man, I feel better after like the second or third session. Like, I think I need to get back to focusing on my studies, but it was really wonderful meeting with you. And I didn't think this was going to work, but it really has been helpful. So I think it really depends on your client, your presenting concerns, your concerns with working with your client. And that's another thing that I really like about this program is that I've been privy to working with clients and students from various different backgrounds and persons of color and different cultures and first generation and international students. So there's a variety of things that the students are presenting with and a lot to learn as far as working with different populations and different cultures and different contexts, and very much appreciative of that opportunity within itself, to be able to be here and to be able to serve in that way. And so, yeah, I think you working with your supervisor and helping to navigate some situations are going to naturally, I think, they're naturally going to come together, and some work is just going to take a longer time. So I'm grateful for that flexibility too, that we've been allotted. So
I'm also thinking about how college counseling centers have a problem with retention, like an attrition of staff across the country. And part of the reason I ranked UVA higher, very high, was because the retention, we still lose people a lot, but it's better than other places. And, I've worked at CAPS previously, or been aware, friends have worked at CAPS where nobody on staff had been there for more than 2 years. And here you really do have, we have our crisis coordinator is retiring, but he's been here for 20 years, and leadership has been around for more than a couple years. And there are some dedicated staff members who've been here for a while. And so I think that's a good sign about the cohesiveness and how people are pulled back to stay here maybe longer than at other counseling sites. And I like that there are some, there's some ways that diversity is certainly lacking on staff. One way it's not is age diversity. It's not a lot of counseling sites. It's like a lot of young people. And there certainly are great younger, and I don't mean to be ageist in any way about that, but I just mean in previous CAPS I've worked at, it's really been more recent graduates, regardless of age. And here, there are all types of people who bring a lot of different things to the table in that narrow dimension. People with a lot of experience, I guess, as I'm saying, and people with more recent training who bring different perspectives that are equally as valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there may be newer staff, you know, depending on what time you're in when you watch this video, like there could be a number of newer staff members that we're not aware of now, just because with destigmatization of mental health, along with, you know, the great resignation, you know, there's a need, and there's a demand for mental health services across university counseling services centers. I mean, students are wanting therapy and more.
We're busy.
What's that?
I said we're busy.
We are very busy. Yeah, everybody is super, super busy. And like a typical day for us is some sort of seminar, like a didactic, whether it's, you know, a group seminar or multicultural seminar. Usually we have a seminar along with supervision. You get a lot of supervision. So you like your individual supervisors, like probably be meeting, you know, on any given day throughout the week, you're probably meeting with one of them, or providing supervision for one of the prac students here. And then about, you know, 3 to 4 clients, whether that's therapy or an intake, or we do something called a initial phone assessment, which is, you know, it's a 20-minute phone call, but you 2 of those per week. So I would say that's about it. And then like charting, eating lunch. I strongly recommend putting lunch blocks in your Medicat schedule to keep boundaries and make sure that you're at least taking
boundaries to use for extra charting, so you can leave work sometime that day.
Yeah. You know, adhering to the 45-minute clinical hour and using those 15 minutes to breathe or write your note, or I don't know, clear your head, or do whatever you need to do in between, because it can be intense to do, you know, 4 sessions back to back. I definitely feel very drained after that, but that's a pretty typical day.
Yeah, I would say so. It's a pretty typical day that you're going to at least have one seminar, you're going to engage with one of your supervisors, either for supervision or through some type of clinical work. And you're going to see your clients. And so, yeah, if you don't schedule a lunch, you won't eat. And you probably won't do very good work. And also, one thing that CAPS has really taught me is like the importance of sticking to the frame, to make sure that I have those minutes afterwards to breathe and decompress before I have to go out and pick up my next client, or do my group, or start my ECS shift. And so, yeah, these are very important things that I think are going to benefit me throughout my career, especially is and contributing to self-care at the end of the day. And if you're not caring for yourself, it's going to be very difficult for you to provide that experience that your client is needing in that space. And so I'm grateful to CAPS for kind of emphasizing the importance of setting and holding that frame.
And I will say we are busy, but I don't want to scare anybody by that. In that, like when I was considering my internship year, I was really worried I would be underwater in the same way I was in the second year of my doctoral program. I think maybe there's one like hell year in each doctoral program. I don't know if it's second year for everybody. It's not like that, you know, at least for me personally. I'm really glad to be here. I don't feel like I'm losing my mind. I don't feel like I'm underwater. I feel like I'm busy. There are days where I feel like help. Or like a day where I'm like feeling a little emotional finishing my last note at 6 p.m. But just about like needing more time for myself. But for me personally, especially when I got into the groove of like finishing my notes pretty quickly, like figuring out how to pace my intake reports. I can get in at 8 or a little after 8 and leave a little bit after 5. And I've been so engaged throughout the day, not in like so anxious that I'm burning out, but like just engaged throughout the day that the time goes really quickly. And then so by 5:30, it's like, oh, well, it's already 5. I don't know if Kim's shaking her head because she's like,
Well, yeah, no, I totally agree with you. The day goes by really fast, really fast. And you're busy, and I love it. But sometimes, I remember I noticed you said to me like a week or so ago, like, I noticed you didn't schedule lunch today. I'm like, yeah, I got 15 minutes.
I was snooping on your calendar.
Yeah, you were snooping. That's a fun thing too that we get to do is check in on each other and use our, because we're all competitive. So when I look at Amy and Nicole's schedule, I just add more intakes. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, I'm not checking because I'm competitive because I know that I'd be losing. Like,
not at all. Not at all.
I have the least number of clients. That might be actually why I feel so like, I'm like, I've been like really working to keep it at 10 and not like 13, 14, like you guys are doing. Because on top of it, it doesn't sound that much like having 10 clients, but when you do an ECS stands for emergency consult shift. So you do a 4-hour emergency consult shift. You're doing a group for an hour and a half, and then maybe a half an hour of debrief with your co-leader. You're doing 2 brief screens, and Nicole said they're 20 minutes, but mine can last up to 45.
Yeah, it depends.
And then you're doing an intake, which is an hour, and then you build in a half an hour to do the paperwork after that. So even if you only have 10 clients, you end up having close to 20 hours a week of direct service. And then your paperwork really builds up, and you've got a gajillion hours of supervision, and you supervise a 3rd-year practicum student. And there are treatment team meetings, which I really like. And there's a whole staff meeting, which is great. We have a bi-weekly intern meeting. So all of that stuff really fills out your schedule. So
I thought you weren't gonna, add to the anxiety.
Well,
I just got anxious listening to you.
Yeah, but look at our offices are so nice. They're so big.
They are. They're so nice.
Office. They are beautiful.
So be here for
And
10 hours.
and we're all near each other, so we can sort of like jump in, yeah, and ask each other questions. So they did that intentionally.
Yeah.
It's
nice.
Yeah. So Amy, out of all of that, or maybe anything that you didn't mention, do you have a favorite like aspect of the internship? And Kim, feel free to jump in if something comes to mind for you.
I think something that Kim alluded to earlier is this feeling of empowerment when you conquer some of the challenges here, like getting the Medicat system. Now that I really, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. I swore. I can do it, anybody can do it, and I can do it. And now I feel really proficient. That feels good, like Kim was saying. And same with the crisis experience. Like that's one of my, even though sometimes it's a low for me, overall, having that experience is a favorite part. And then I would say I'm growing very fond of my treatment team. Kim's on my treatment team. I wish Nicole were on my treatment team. But there's some days where I'm just so thankful for the staff here. Like there are a lot of people on staff who are really warm, caring people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who, in times where I felt really self-critical or have turned to for help in a time where it wasn't convenient for them, they've been so generous. And I really like I really like the staff here. I mean, there are certainly things that, you know, one-on-one, I'm sure we would all discuss with you about like downsides, and some difficult things about the staff, but I think that's true of most places. Yeah, so that's what I would say, that I like the people that I work with, and I like my fellow interns.
Me too. I think that's my favorite. I think the thing that I value perhaps the most about the internship experience has been, I really feel like I have good relationships with all of my supervisors. I feel like I can be authentic and genuine and really talk to them about how I'm feeling, you know, just about internship and where I am with life, but also like how I'm feeling with my clients and how I'm feeling about the supervision and how I'm feeling with, you know, settling in here. And that's been so important. And I've seen the payoff of that is that you develop as a clinician. And I've always felt comfortable admitting when I was struggling, like whether it was with something specific or just this sort of overall sort of feedback fatigue, where I'm like, you know, you're getting a lot of feedback, you're getting a lot of supervision, and that can make you feel a type of way if you're having a hard day or you had a hard session, and, you know, watching tape, and you can very easily slip into a self-critical role. And I think that like the support that I've gotten from the staff when I've disclosed that, and they've normalized that, and they've been just real people and really good clinicians, but they're also just really good people, especially, you know, the staff that I feel like I've interacted with. Most staff, I mean, obviously some of them I interact with more so than others, but I really like the staff. One of the things that I liked about UVA based on the interview, and that was really important to me just based on previous experiences, was that the staff liked each other and that they were like having fun with each other and seemed to just really enjoy. I mean, it was virtual, but they seemed to nonetheless enjoy each other's presence. And that was really important to me. And I have learned that that was genuine. You know, I've since come to, after being here and seeing like, no, that wasn't just a show that was put on for the interview or the interviewees, but the people here generally get along very well and like working with each other. And it's like the top priority is supporting each other in addition to supporting the students. And that's been so important to me. So that's probably my favorite part. And just that they supported us in developing a relationship with each other too. You know, that was like always very important, that we as an intern cohort gel together and you know, support each other, because we're going through the same thing. And in some ways the staff can relate, but in some ways like they're not in it with you. And so that is super important.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think GBA, you both kind of said it, like they're, you know, genuine people. They're just human beings. And I think sometimes we lose sight of what it means to be human. And I don't find that here. I do find that the clinicians are human beings, and so they get frustrated too, and they have some struggles too, and they bring these struggles to our treatment teams, and sometimes, you know, bounce things off of us. And so we feel like it's okay to be human as well. And, you know, sometimes humans err, sometimes, you know, we make mistakes, and so like it fosters a genuine interpersonal relationship between one another, because it's okay to be human. I mean, you don't want to, you know, not care about your work, but I think it makes you have more pride about what you're doing and how you're doing it. and you risk more and you grow more as a result. So I think that's the thing that UVA has that really attracted me and, makes me actually want to come in here to work is that they acknowledge my humanity and make space for it. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, I feel like the staff is very, and like your supervisors or really any staff person is very responsive to your needs. I mean, there are times on my emergency consult shift where like you just grab whoever is around and they're always so helpful. And and that's never been met with like any sort of disgruntled, like, why are you bothering me type of response. It's always super helpful and eager to help. And I feel respected and supported. Like I feel respected in my like competencies and what I bring to the table, but also supported in knowing that like you're in training, and so there are going to be times where you need that extra consultation or just running something by somebody to make sure that you are thinking through things clearly, or that you're seeing that you're asking all the right questions or double checking. And
it's funny, Nicole, as you're talking, I'm thinking about like how in some ways we're sort of the glue in the office, because since we come into contact with so many of our colleagues all the time, one thing about COVID procedures is that we have to wear masks, and to take them off, we have to shut our doors. So we've heard that the culture before was like open door, people would be in and out. And now it's like a ghost town. Everybody's like in their nice big offices, but like you can go for hours without seeing anybody, even if you're in the hall. And it's sort of funny when you mentioned that, like, we consult a lot and we develop a lot of relationships, like supervision and training seminars are led by a lot of different staff. So we actually come into contact with more staff than anybody else in the office by far. And when I think about like how many people I interact with on a day, I don't know. I just think, I don't know. I never thought about it like that before, that we're glue in some way.
We are. Like, I'm just thinking here and I'm like, does Belinda like talk to the people down there? Like, when do they see each other? We see them in seminar.
Yeah. So this is what happens, right? We just really just discover how awesome we are, while we're working here. And then we talk about it for a while.
We are the glue.
You guys also,
the interns are the glue.
Yeah. And we should make t-shirts.
We can pass notes between staff members.
I literally do sometimes. Like somebody's like in a session and they're like, you got it anyway.
Virtual note.
Thinking about like in the minutes that we have left, do you think talking about some of the trainings that are offered, like if what people should expect in terms of like formal learning and whether that felt useful to you guys, like what things felt most useful or not useful?
I don't know. I feel like that information went in one ear and out the other for me personally, because it was
the training stuff.
Yeah, it would be information overload. But I'm happy to like give you space to talk about that for a minute, and I'm happy to chime in any way that I think would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I'll just say that like maybe people have read, if they're interviewing, that the training focuses on like AEDP, which is accelerated experiential dynamic therapy. And so it's a good space if you're interested in learning shorter term psychodynamic therapy. The trainings is like facilitates that. And there's a lot of different comprehensive trainings at the beginning that I took notes and I look at sometimes. Learned something things about psychiatry and psychopharmacology and nutrition, eating disorders. And like you said, this could go one ear and out the other, but I just I think it's also important to emphasize that we've learned through supervising externs that are here who come from a lot of different modalities, that there's supervisors that can accommodate most modalities. Would you guys say that? Like ACT, DBT, CBT, psychodynamic.
Yeah, and I think you're matched up with the supervisor, like to echo just something we mentioned earlier, like if that's your goal, if it's your goal to develop to do AEDP, and there are several staff members who that's a something that they do and something that they can offer as a supervisor, then that's sort of a natural pairing. But if that's not something that you want to do, you don't have to do it. And even if you do end up working with a supervisor who that is sort of, something that they integrate into their clinical practice, nothing is really thrust upon you in terms of like how you want to do therapy. Speaking it broadly in terms of theoretical orientation, like if you want to do CBT, you can do CBT. You may not be an ideal sort of supervisee for somebody who doesn't do that and doesn't have, the experience and doesn't feel comfortable supervising that, but there are people here who do.
Who do, yeah. And I guess I have a question for Kim too. I know that you come from a humanistic program. Kim, are there people on staff who can supervise like a humanistic approach for therapy?
I feel like almost everyone on staff has some kind of humanistic approach. Sometimes some type of. And so now my orientation, experiential personal construct psychotherapy, and intertwined with some relational psychoanalysis is it's interesting. But what I can say is that yes, the supervisors generally will ask what I mean and make room for me to explain. And I use my language a lot in my notes, and I mean, as long as they can understand what it is, like I think myself and one of my supervisors today, he was saying, oh, that's like, this, from my perspective, and so meeting in the middle is something that I feel like they're very much able to do. And I think it's because we do believe in relationship here. So I think that's what I feel here is not just in the work that we do, but in being with each other. There's an aspect of human relating that is practiced here at UVA CAPS that makes it feel a lot like home for me. So I haven't run into no, I can't say that I've had too much problems in, the areas of getting tutelage or supervision, even related to diagnosis, which is something that we humanists, kind of veer away from, the idea of pathologizing. And so it's been interesting. I've learned a lot, and
yeah,
no, it works. We work. So, and I wanted to speak to the seminars too, to echo what Nicole was saying. A lot of that stuff I feel like was lost upon me, and I'm sorry that it was. But I can say that one thing that I feel like was a benefit was that it was a variety of things that we were exposed to. So it got like a taste of some things, and those things that you're really interested in, it's really nice. Like when we had the eating disorder seminar, that was really beneficial for me to kind of learn about in that moment. And some of that stuff really stuck with me. So I'll say like there's benefits to it, but it is a lot of information being thrown at you. And so you can't put that pressure on yourself that I need to know everything and I need to retain everything. Like Nicole and like Amy said, like at the end of the day, like ask if you need help. And you'll find, everything is well received here. You're not expected to know everything. You're here to learn and you're here to grow. And that's exactly what you're going to do if you work the process.
Yeah, I think the one last thing that I have to say tonight, I think it's the last thing, is an amendment to what I said my favorite part of CAPS was here. I also appreciate the benefits, like just that we have health insurance, that it's not taken out of our stipend, that we get 22 days off a year. Like I had a friend who was getting married this year and she was in CAPS for internship. She only had 10 days. And we were gifted by student health, gave the entire student health the week before Christmas off and the week after Christmas off this year. So we don't have to use any of our days for that. We're given 1 day off during spring break. So if you took the whole week off, you'd only have to take 4 days. And then at the end of the year, if you don't use up your vacation, you just subtract it from the end of the internship year. So you are in control a little bit over if you want to end the internship a little early. So I really appreciate that. I feel like just concretely, it makes my life easier, but it also feels like appreciation. It also feels like just an honoring of how much work we do. And I don't know, I think I would be really frustrated if I was given less. And I believe that the spirit of leadership is that they want to do everything that they can to make our lives easier. That's anything that's within their power. And I think that's reflected in that policy. Yeah.
Well, we hope this was helpful. Does anybody have any closing remarks?
Chocolate. Always keep chocolate handy.
Yeah. You're the chocolate queen for me to come over and be like, do you have a snack?
Right. It generates, I'm never alone.
Yeah.
I taunt people when they come. Yes, chocolate's necessary.